Danny, what is going on with Gareth Bale this morning? A lot of Tottenham fans are saying, what have we acquired in this Gareth Bale? What have they got? He's on last night down at Brighton and comes off after 61 minutes. He got his chance last night. It appears he didn't take it and is hooked. What's happened to him? This isn't Gareth Bale, more recently global star of Real Madrid.
Well, he looks physically way off where he was at, doesn't he? And that's what you're comparing him to. My understanding is, after speaking to a couple of people last week, that actually it was a bit of it was a little bit of a risk, but not a big one in terms of the finances. I don't think Tottenham are paying as much of his wages as people think. I think from Daniel's point of view, it's a good example, a good time to get someone in who appease the fans and look like a major signing that could make a difference. So it was a risk worth taking, and I don't think that he's physically capable of playing to the levels he did once before after all the injuries and the time away he's not played, because for 2-3 years now he's hardly played.
Well, he has hardly played. But Simon, I don't think you're in the mood to cut him that much slack, are you?
Well, I think you might see some explanation as to the reasons why he finds himself out of favour with Real Madrid. I mean, let's look at it. He wanted to go to China 18 months ago. Who wants to go to China if your career is in full flow? China is where you go to get paid, not where you go to develop your career. Irrespective of whether Tottenham are paying half of the £500,000 a week this player allegedly earns, or a third of it, they're still paying the best part of 10 million. If they're paying a third of his wages, which might well be the case, they're still paying £10 million for a footballer. He didn't find a vaccine for the world's problems. He's a footballer. His job was to come in and be fit for purpose. And if he isn't fit for purpose, then you've got to look at the player and look at him and say, well, where are you really? What was this all about? Back in the summer when it was announced and all the excitement and furore about Gareth Bale, I without being the wise old owl that can go back retrospectively, wasn't enamoured with it, because I think Gareth Bale is a busted flush. I think ultimately he is in a situation where, for a variety of reasons, whether it's injury or his relationship with Real Madrid, a significant part of this guy's ability to compete at the highest level has been eroded. And it's now being seen more clearly than perhaps we've lived in this world of saying, how the hell can this guy win European Cup finals, Champions League Cup finals for Real Madrid and yet not even get a look in? And now we're beginning to see possibly some of the reasons why. It's disappointing because when you close your eyes and you have these iconic figures or so-called iconic figures in your mind's eye, you always want to see them at their best. And when Gareth Bale has come back, we've seen nothing resembling that. And people say, oh, well, he looked so well against Wickham. What? Yeah. Wickham are bottom of the Championship.
Yeah.
With due respect,
I think the big question,
doing well.
The big question is it an attitude and application thing? I'm not so sure it is. My understanding is that he's working as hard as he can and trying to get himself back to a level, whereas his body, I don't think, maybe some people talk about his mentality and the fear of being injured, etc., etc. I don't think his body will allow him to get back to what he was, because part of his game when he was at top of the tree is that wonderful physicality, athleticism and close control and ability to go past people and travel long distances with the ball. He just doesn't look like he's got that now. So for all the will in the world, whether you're trying your best, if you're applying yourself properly and doing the right things, but your body isn't letting you get there, then sometimes you just have to accept that it's not going to happen.
You see, there's John and Devon, one of many, saying, I guess Zidane was right about Gareth Bale. A lot of Tottenham fans saying this morning, Danny, what have we got in this guy? And Simon, you're saying not a lot. We've seen the best of Gareth Bale. That's basically what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I look at it, and Danny, I'll bow to obviously a greater knowledge from Danny from being a player's point of view. I don't suppose in any shape or form Gareth Bale wanted to come back to this country to devalue his own legacy as much as footballers look back on their respect. So he will have wanted to come here. But sometimes, as Danny's alluding to, you go to the well and there's nothing there. Your application, your desire, and your desire to want to be successful is still there. I do think that vast wealth, and I do think that exposure to being out of commission playing on a weekly basis will have helped take away some of the edge. But like boxers do sometimes, they go there one time too many, and despite all the best intentions and the best intensity and training, when it comes to the business end, i.e. the match day or the fight, there isn't anything left. And maybe that's why. But it also goes back to the notion, because I could never understand it, Danny, at that stage in his career, whatever age he was, 29 years of age, he wanted to go to China.
Yeah.
But he must have known then that he was coming to a point in his career.
But if you go back before then, another 18 months, even 2 years, where he wasn't playing regularly in Madrid, injury after injury, sitting on the bench, I don't think in football, like a lot of sports, I mean, Tyson Fury is probably the exception to the rule, that you can be out of playing regular football for 2-3 years, then get back to a club where they want to try and play you and integrate you again, and think you're going to pick it up overnight. It doesn't work that way. You know, if you're out of the game and not playing regularly and training regularly and being part of the club and that physicality of the match day requires, you're going to find it a long old road back.
But isn't this like coming back from... You look at Paul Gascoigne's injuries when he moved from Tottenham to Lazio and the problems he had. He got injured in the FA Cup final, spent 9 months rehabilitating, goes out after he got himself back in there, does his knee by falling over in a nightclub, out for another 6 months' time. And yet, 18 months after that, Paul Gascoigne, not the same player as he was before the injury, but still capable of going to Rome, commanding great respect from Lazio fans, coming back and scoring wonder goals for England against Scotland in 1996.
And Danny, surely this is when Bale should step up. When they don't have Kane, who do you need? Where do you look? Someone who's done it at the very highest level. Cue Gareth. But it's not happening.
I don't think his intention is anything other than to try and be the man who can step up and make Tottenham better. I just don't think, knowing the lad and knowing the people around him, since he's been there, his application attitude's been spot on, I've been told. He's working non-stop.
That's good of him.
Well, Simon, you know as well as I do that not every player who's been through what he's been through and done what he's done comes with the right attitude, do they?
So, no, and that's a fair point.
He has spent a lot of time on the sidelines, and he's not kicked up a stink and start giving it the big and
that's good of him as well.
I know, but a lot of players do, Simon.
I know, Danny, but that doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that because people behave in a crappy fashion, or when someone behaves properly, we should say that's good.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that it's not something we should jump on, thinking he's this big egotistical guy who's not putting in the yards on the training ground to try and make himself better.
But even at 60%, Gareth Bale would show. You know, with the greatest will in the world, I know what you're saying and I bow to your knowledge. The last thing that goes with a boxer is his punch. But in this instance, he loses that explosive pace. But given the level and quality he's at, there are other attributes and other parts of his game. Even if he was occupied, if Gareth Bale was at 60%, he'd still be head and shoulders above some of those Tottenham players. But he's not even at that.
But he hasn't had 6 games on the spin. That's my point of, if you can't play 3, maybe even 3 or 4 on the spin, how are you going to gain any momentum and feel? However good you are. He's been 3 years in the wilderness.
Okay, but what about the times back in history when you used to have super subs like David Fairclough that used to come on and affect the game because that's what their job was.
Change it.
So if you've got an impact player that can come on and do 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, an impact, he can't even become an impact player. You can't even put him in to be able to come off the bench to get those 6 games in a routine where he can play for 20-minute bursts. We're not even seeing Bale be in that position.
All I can suggest then is that actually the players around him are doing better than him, looking sharper than him, and Jose thinks they're more of a threat.
Yeah,
his levels aren't at the level that he expects or needs. For I don't know. Do you know what you said, Simon, earlier is true. It's a shame. We can analyse it till we're blue. It's a shame because when he signed, I was excited. I thought that this would be great for Tottenham and make them more competitive. As it happened, it's ending with a whimper, isn't it? It's just
it is.
Happening.